I mean, this is now, if you visit America, this is what you see, by the way. Make this louder. If you visit the United States of America on a summer trip, this is what you get. What are they doing? I mean, it really, listen, you need cops, but you got to just have cops. Can't put the military everywhere in the city. It's like this country really does have a fascist kind of wet dream.
All right, folks, so that is wildly successful and wildly hilarious comedian Tim Dillon, who was, until recently, a Trump supporter, definitely pro-MAGA, right-wing coded, openly referring to what Trump is doing in Washington, D.C. as a fascist wet dream. And later on in his program, he actually calls out not just Trump, but also Trump supporters like Alex Jones for not also condemning what Trump is doing, because this is the sort of thing that Alex Jones used to talk about in terms of his conspiracy theories, and yet Trump is the one effectuating them. It's pretty shocking and shows another major departure of the pro-MAGA or MAGA-adjacent influencer class, like, again, Joe Rogan and Andrew Schultz at the Flagrant podcast, and now Tim Dillon, retreating from Trump as his authoritarian impulses become more blatant and more undeniable. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, we've got a couple of other clips to play here of Tim Dillon. Again, because, again, like Rogan and some of the others, he's becoming increasingly vocal in his criticisms of Trump. He's certainly critical of Trump's mishandling of the Epstein situation, but in this case, it's about the fascistic authoritarian crackdown in Washington, D.C. and other places using the military and the National Guard.
I don't love this takeover of the this militarized police. I don't love it. I do understand we have a crime problem in cities. I'm not blind to it. I get it. I see people all the time and I go, that's a problem. Not in a racial way. I'll just see someone who sparks my concern. As someone who seems like they're on drugs or a shifty looking character, you know? And I'll say, somebody's got to deal with that. But it's got to be the cops, right? We don't need National Guard, or do we? I don't know that we do.
We don't. So, again, Washington, D.C. does have a crime issue. There's no question, even now, crime is too high in Washington, D.C., but crime is also simultaneously at a 50-year low in Washington, D.C. It declined under President Biden and continued to decline under Donald Trump. And one would think, knowing Trump, he would just, boast about it and take credit for it. And actually, he did earlier in the year, around April. So he's trying to have his cake and eat it too. But there's just no reason to bring in the National Guard. Moreover, not only has Trump deployed the D.C. National Guard, but Republican governors in red states, like South Carolina, for example, have sent hundreds of their own National Guard to Washington, D.C. to surge reinforcements for Trump in this, again, authoritarian crackdown. Now, again, before I play this last clip of Tim Dillon, in which he calls out, again, not just Trump by name, but also people like Alex Jones, really interesting, I want to remind you that though, again, D.C. has a crime issue, there are other states, or other cities, and other states that have a higher crime rate per capita than Washington, D.C., and Trump apparently has no interest in deploying the National Guard there. So when he claims it's all about solving crime, that's objectively bullshit, because if that were true, then you would surge resources to cities that have higher crime rates in Washington, D.C. And then, of course, his cultists will say, well, that's because he controls the D.C. National Guard. He doesn't control the National Guards of other states, to which I say a couple of things. Number one, aha! So you concede that Donald Trump, as the sitting president, is the ultimate authority over the D.C. National Guard, in which case Trump and you were lying when you said that Nancy Pelosi was the one who was in charge of the Guard. She could stop or summon them at will during January 6th. So you concede, which we win and you lose, right? That debate by your concession, because Trump was ultimately the one in charge of deploying the DC National Guard, which means when he didn't do it on January 6th during the insurrection, he was objectively, morally at fault. Nancy Pelosi was not. Donald Trump was. And we liberals and progressives were right to blame him. So again, we win, you lose. Love that. Love that concession. But the second thing I would point out is in other states, Trump has deployed the National Guard because the National Guard exists under simultaneous jurisdiction between state governors and the federal government. He deployed the National Guard against the wishes of Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom in Los Angeles, California. So Trump has no compunction about deploying the Guard over the wishes of state leaders. So no, you lose that debate too. So I love that. Love rubbing it in when they lose the debate, which is almost always. So one last clip of Tim Dillon. And again, this is where he calls out Trump specifically and Alex Jones as well.
They've already got the cops on the street that are not cops or that are the military. They've already got the National Guard on the street. They already have all your information in D.C., and now they just get to decide what is and isn't over the line. That should scare everybody. You're fucking nuts, dude. If this doesn't scare you, you're nuts. All of these things that Alex Jones, and I've had Alex on, I like Alex, but all these things that Alex Jones was like worried about when I listened to him in the late 90s, early 2000s are coming to fruition. And he, I don't know where he is on all of that stuff, but like, I know he's a big fan of Trump, but like, this is everything Alex Jones always talked about. Military in the street, the FEMA camp, the tech company that monitors everything, the surveillance. This is all of that. I mean, not to sound like a fucking nut. This is everything a crackhead. And I don't even mean a crackhead like crack, but a guy smoking weed in a room with a fucking black light and a fucking, insane clown posse tattoo on his arm. I'm thinking of a very specific guy I was friends with. But this is everything that guy would have talked about. He'd be like, bro, there's going to be military in the street. They're going to put you in jail for your fucking thoughts, man. If you just say them, bro, you're going to be in fucking jail. There's going to be a fucking company that monitors everything you do, bro.
He's pretty funny, and he goes on to make the case. He's like, listen, right now the people like Alex Jones and other Trump supporters who are cheerleading this should be careful because there may come a time when either the people that they admire and cultishly worship, like Trump, turn on them, or perhaps, and I hope this doesn't happen, but you might get a truly authoritarian Democratic president who will use Trump's precedent to use against them as well. Hopefully it doesn't come to that, right? That's why we should just avoid this at all costs by saying, no, we really don't want an authoritarian president. The problem is Trump is uniquely authoritarian. We've never seen a president like him in any way, shape, or form, certainly not in the Democratic Party. But again, it's really important because, again, it shows that very influential people like Tim Dillon, who helped sanitize and launder and make Trump's positions more palatable, are distancing themselves from him. And again, condemning. I mean, Tim Dillon calls this fascist. This is fascism in Tim Dillon's mind. So this is good. And again, liberals and progressives and people in the Democratic Party or the anti-Trump coalition, as frustrated as we may be, as much as we might want to scream in Tim Dillon's face, why the fuck didn't you understand this when Trump was saying this out loud? We were right and you were wrong, so just fucking pay attention. It's tempting to shout that at these people. But it's more important to defeat fascism than it is to virtue signal about how right you were about fascism and others being wrong. So I think that we should see this as an encouraging sign and continue to try to coax the likes of Tim Dillon and others away from Trump and to exploit the increasing divisions in the MAGA or MAGA-adjacent influencer class. I think it's objectively good because a weakened MAGA movement is better for the country. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.